Hi there guys, it's Kirsty Russell here again from My Home Truths, ready for yet another Facebook Live for the week. And today is Challenge of the Week. And I do this every Monday at 10 o'clock, and I'd love for you to join in and to add your own challenge below. And hopefully we can help each other and work through them as best we can. So this week's challenge that I want to talk about is transitioning to high school and managing that transition process. As many of you know, my eldest boy Gilbert is getting ready for year 7, moving from primary school to high school here in Australia. And it's been a really long process to get him to this point. And I've shared in the past some of the challenges we've faced in that transition process and getting him ready as a student with distinct and different special needs. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process and what we've done so far and what I've done proactively as a parent to help him along the way, because I think it's really important that we do what we can and we do as much as we can to provide the support for both schools, for the primary school and obviously the high school as the receiving school. But this process is applicable for any transition. It doesn't have to just be a transition, you know, from primary school to high school. It can be transitioning from a special education unit to mainstream. It can be, you know, going from one public school or primary school to another. Really, I think a transition has a lot of similarities, you know, regardless of what you know the destination is. So I just wanted to share, I suppose, some of the challenges or some of the things that we've done that hopefully help you guys, since we are pretty much in transition season. So Gilbert's already had a couple of transition visits already as part of a supported transition process, and they've gone really well so far. So, you know, I've been pretty happy with what we've done, but a lot of that has been down to the fact that we've done some extra work along the way. So he was already known to the school knew him before he even came along. So some of the, you know, the executive, the deputies and the principal, for instance, know him already, which is really good, and so they can have a bit of a chat to him, and that helps him out because he really likes that rapport. So the first thing to think about, and this is sort of, I suppose, based on our experience, what I'm going to be trying to do, because Matilda will be going through this next year, she'll be in year 6 next year, is to start early, and that's starting in year 5. So basically right now for Matilda, we've got her reassessed. So as I shared last week, she's now ASD level 1. She was Asperger's in the old DSM. And she's got an additional diagnosis of separation anxiety disorder. So those things are really important, because what we're going to do now is we're going to give her an IEP for the coming year. She hasn't had one for the last few years because the diagnoses were out of date. So then she'll be on the radar for the supported transition and all the other processes that will happen later on. So it really is important to start early, and so think, you know, year 5, what you're going to be doing, and it's having a think about the high school you're thinking of your child, having, you know, coordinating a meeting with your school to say, look, we're really thinking, we'd like to think now about high school for our child, you know, and get the idea of the school, the primary school, about what setting they think will be best. They might think a mainstream setting's fine. They might think a supported class within a mainstream setting is good. They also think that a, you know, going into a special education setting would be best for your child, you know, and you're going to have some thoughts on that yourself. But regardless of that, if you're looking at any sort of transition, particularly from primary school to high school, you know, you really need to start thinking about this in year 5. And so you've got that time to get the reports and the things that you need, because more than likely you will need to provide proof of that the diagnosis, or that there's some issues that exist. You'll need to get in place some ideas of what therapies or what other strategies that you might need to put in place to help your child. But more importantly, you need to understand what will need to go into a funding application if you're looking for, you know, equipment or having sort of extra assistance at high school. So starting early is important. So with Gilbert for last year, we got all these reports, probably the end of year 4 actually, we got all of his reports set up so that we could start. And he had the added, well, not complication, but the added part that he was actually we were going for some selective high schools for him as well, for his academic ability. So we had to actually put applications in this time last year. So we're not doing that same with Matilda, so it should be a little bit more relaxed, I guess, but still the fact remains, start early if you can, because it really is important to do that. I would also say be proactive. And this is proactive in all parts of the process, but particularly in things like sort of funding applications. So your child, you'll find that, I know our experience was in March this year, we had to put in the application for high school. So we basically, that's why you've got to think so early, because by the start of, the end of term 1, you've got to make that decision and put that application in. And that's important. They need to have that early, so that if there are requirements for funding, requirements for extra equipment, for things like that, they can actually have time to put all that in place. So being proactive, and particularly in talking to your school now and saying, look, if you're putting together information in a funding application, can I have a look over it? They offered that to us, so we were able to have a look through. It was a 5,000 word opus on Gilbert, because he's got his autism diagnosis as well as his albinism diagnosis, which has his resultant vision impairment as well. So he actually has, I think, 3 technical diagnoses as well as an anxiety disorder that go towards the school. So all of that needs to be in place and identified. And the school needs to explain to the high school or the receiving school what this means, for him, what assistance he might need to help him, get through and to thrive in his new setting. So, I would, if you feel comfortable enough, to ask the school, look, can I have a look over what wording and what information you put in the funding application? I was able to add in a few extra things. You might feel that things are being glossed over or not put in properly. As a parent, it's really important. You're the main advocate for your child. I would definitely ask for a review of that, and just to make sure that everything is in place as it should, to give the best possible chance for your child to get the funding and the help that they need. The other thing that I would do, and again it's being proactive, is find opportunities for your child to get familiarised with the new setting. And this is on top of any supported transition, etc., that might happen. So, for instance, what we did, or what I thought about earlier this year, was getting Gilbert to go and talk to the high school about his albinism as part of International Albinism Awareness Day. So we ended up going up and doing a speech to this high school, to the whole populace there, about albinism, the importance of the day, and the fact that he's no different really to anybody else. He might look a little bit different, but essentially, he's the same. And it was a really good opportunity for him to show off his strength, and he has a strength in reading and in sort of talking. He's got a great personality, and he likes sort of being the centre of attention, particularly to be sort of like a teacher and imparting information. Not so much performing on a stage, hates that, but doing a speech and sharing information to others, he really does enjoy. So we found that was a really good experience for him, because he got to meet the principal. He got to meet all their deputies. He gave himself a profile at the school, so they're already aware that he is an eloquent boy, he's a confident boy, he's a very smart boy, and that he is able to get his information out there, and that he has a commitment to trying to show others, and share information about his condition. So that actually was a very positive move on our behalf. So now that when he goes up for transition visits every week, they know him already. They're, oh, hey, how you doing, Gilbert? They will ask him, about certain things. So he's actually got that rapport set up. The school knows him, and I think that's a really valuable thing to do. So now I'm trying to think of ways that I can do something similar for Matilda next year, that I can sort of showcase some of her strengths, as well as give her the chance to talk about herself and familiarise herself with the school, but also for them to understand how she thinks and ticks and acts as well. So, I don't know, there may be ways that your child, they may be good at performing, they may be good at music, they might be great at art, they might like, sharing information on a particular topic. Whatever it is, have a think and see if there's some ways. Talk to your school. I had the support of his primary school for this. It wasn't something I just went off and did. But maybe talk to your primary school and see if there's an opportunity to share information, or some way that you can familiarise your child with the school, but also familiarise the school with your child. And I think that's really helped us move forward, and it allowed us to make those relationships early as well. So now the school knows me and they know him. And it's not in a bad way. It's not like I'm the parent who goes up all the time is asking for information and demanding meetings and things. It was quite an organic way of creating that relationship. So that might be something to think about too. And I've mentioned this before, but ask for supported transition. So normally my understanding is that if your child has an IEP and your child has needs that are recognised at the primary school, that they will do what they can to organise some sort of additional transition support for your child. So for Gilbert School, they've got 5 5 Thursdays where they've got 2-hour visits in the morning. So he's lucky a few of his friends are going up as well. It gives him the chance to get used to the school. They're getting used to the activities, the noise, sort of how the school ticks, how people move, that sort of thing. The smells, it's just even a sensory awareness. If your child has sensory needs, it's really good. But it also allows him to see what now the kids are working on doing. But more importantly, hopefully make connections with kids already. So he hopefully will be ahead of some other, he and the other kids doing that supported transition will hopefully be ahead of some of the other kids who come next year, because they're going to know, they're going to have this greater knowledge of other people around them. So fingers crossed that's the way it works. So far it's been successful. He's enjoyed the visits. I think it's helped that he's had some of his friends up with him. But it's just been a way for him to feel a lot more comfortable with the school. And that's really what I think a lot of our kids need, is just that sense of comfort, that sense of familiarity. And just so that they feel a little bit more sort of safe and secure in this new environment, because really that's what you're trying to do with this process. The other thing that I would do is, introduce yourself to the school, yourself as a parent, and this goes, as I said before, when we sort of engineered that opportunity for Gilbert to go up and have a chat to the school. I then made an appointment with the school following that to talk to their learning support and I think their welfare officer just about Gilbert and his needs. So that was in addition to any information that the school sends up, the primary school. I wanted them to find out from me and to have that idea of him as a person, as a student, as well as what needs he has. And I think it's important, if you can, to make that personal connection. And you want to make it in a non-threatening way. You don't want to be that person who goes up and complains and goes up and demands stuff all the time. This was a very informal meeting where I said, look, I'd really like just to come up and chat a little bit further. Gilbert's actually going into a gifted and talented class next year, which is freaking me out, because not that he's incapable, he's a very smart kid, but I am worried about the workload and the pressure and the stress, because I don't know if he's going to want to do any of the work. He still has this issue where school is school and home is home. So we've got to work on that. And that was some of the things I raised, the level of homework, the level of, activity, how the actual assessments done, the work is given. And I was actually given a copy of some stuff they've done in the past in the GATS class in a particular area, design and technology. And they naturally scaffold the activities already, which is basically breaking down tasks. So over the course of a term, they were supposed to set up or, do a cafe or something. But every week it was set down with a different task and actually said, do the logo, this, and this, and set your name, this, and this, and, and do, some website copy, this, and this. So it actually set down really and scaffolded out what needed to happen, which was brilliant for him. And so I can see that and I could go, okay, I think I could really, he could really get into this and maybe this is possible for him. So just having a chat might sort of help with your own fears and your own worries as well, because I'm still scared. Until that first day, Nathan's taking the first week off school next year as well, so we can just both be around for him. Until it happens, we're not going to know for sure. But what I do know, what I can, and I can't control how that's going to go, I can't. But what I can do and what we can all do as parents is control how much preparation and how much work, and building those relationships and those networks with a school, which I think are vitally important. So that's why pretty much everything that sort of we've been doing along the way is all about relationship building. And I think that's the part of the transition process that sometimes gets lost. We give the kids opportunities to go to the school and all that, and have that supported transition. But I think it's equally and vitally important for us as parents to build that relationship as well, so that we don't feel like next year we are always the person who goes up and is always the one having meetings with the school and always the one sort of asking for more. So I think that's a really important thing to think about yourselves in this transition process. If you're doing a similar thing, is have a look, make a relationship, try and get that started up so that you feel confident. If something's going to happen, you're going to know who you need to speak to, so you're going to have that knowledge. You're also going to have the confidence that you've got that relationship already, you can bring this stuff up. And I think that will then hopefully flow onto your child as well. So if you're more positive and feeling more in control of the process, so will they. And I really think that's important. So that's my challenge of the week, is transition, and that's sort of what we've done so far with Gilbert's transition, and we'll be doing more of that. It's never going to end. I'm going to get him off to high school and I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing with Matilda. But that's what it is, and I think you need to put the work in to get to hopefully get the reward later on. So if you've got a challenge you want to share, please comments below. I'll also add some links to some posts I've written about transitioning in the past. So I wrote a 3-part series on transitioning to a mainstream classroom when Gilbert moved from aspect to mainstream back in year 2. And I've also written something already about high school, which is looking a little bit more about some of the challenges we're facing. And I'll also do a post later in the week just basically about sort of what we've done and about the importance of relationships when it comes to the high school transition process. But I hope this has been useful in some way. I hope that, you know, you are not going to be overwhelmed by your own challenges this week. But as I said, please, you know, feel free to share what's going on, and if there's any way that myself or anyone else can help, we will. Hopefully, yeah, I'll see you next time with a win of the week. And hopefully there'll be lots of wins this week. Let's hope anyway. But thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Have a great week. See ya. Sorry, a little thing came up there, a little thing saying storage is almost full, and I'm trying to press the finish button and it wouldn't go because I had to print off this other thing first. So sorry about that, but have a great week and I'll talk to you later. Bye.